And now, live from the studios of Freedom's Phoenix, Ernest Hancock.
And in here, Lunatic Fringe, I know you're out there. Yep. That was the first intro that I had when I first started doing radio back in 03. You know, a friend of mine, Bob Andy, go, oh, you got to do this one, man. You got to do Lunatic Fringe. I know you're out there. Well, we had a lot of fun with that. Now, I want to go ahead and talk about Dr. Paul's campaign. And the reason is that this weekend, when we came back, Sunday, Barry and I were talking last night. We live close to each other, and he and Gina came over, and we're just chilling. And we were watching the internet. We take a look and see, you know, what's out there, and I, you know, post stuff, and I send it out and do my job to the posters and so on. And I see on Daily Paul where Dr. Paul was up on Chris Wallace's Fox News Sunday. Now, Fox, I got to tell you a story about this. Fox News Sunday in 2003 was a new feature on Fox, and it was Tony Snow that later became the communication director guy, the mouthpiece spokesman for the Bush administration. When Tony Snow first started this, I'm just started radio in February of 03, and Fox News Sunday and Tony Snow, they wanted to push this program. Well, they asked to be on, you know, a bunch of different radio shows and so on. And I was a morning show at a KXAM, which was a morning drive show here in the Valley. Now, how the heck did that libertarian get a morning show in a major metropolitan area? 16th largest media outlet, metropolis in the country. So they're wanting, Tony Snow wants to come on my show every Friday to promote what was going on that Sunday. Well, you send them the bio and so on. They never read it. I knew. I put, you know, libertarian this, you know, yada, yada, yada. They just, all they know is they get to be on Morning Drive in Phoenix, Arizona. Here comes Tony Snow. So if you look at my old archive, ernesthancock.com/archive, and you just go by guest name, you can go ahead and, you know, listen to that show. And I think I had in the studio at the time was G. Gordon Liddy. You know, and I've had Stossel on and G. Gordon Liddy and Sam Donaldson and, you know, a lot of big names. I've done it. I get it. You know, blah, blah. I just hate being lied to. I don't want to, you know, I want to learn something. I want to, you know, either spike them back. You get people that are advocates for whatever. You're going ahead, and a lot of the people that listen to the show know that I'm kind of planting seeds in them. Well, these guys, they already know. They've been around long enough. They're just propaganda ministers, you know. I'm like, all right, fine. So I don't like playing that game. But we had Tony Snow on. It was obvious to me what Fox News Sunday was about. It was there to create a platform for them to cheerlead for us going to war with Iraq and any and everybody else. That's what they, and I go, look, man, yeah, Tony, you know, great piece, man. You know, it's great to have you on, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure you have an opinion on this Iraq war thing, seeing as how you were assistant communication director under Daddy Bush when you did the first Gulf War. Oh, they didn't want to talk about that. You know, but we ain't going on their show no more because they want you to play ball. So to have Chris Wallace, you know, there in this position, I know what he represents because I know why they created the show. So we're going to go ahead. Barry and I will talk about it after we play most of it here, and we'll try and get it finished in the next segment. It's about 14 minutes, and then we'll talk about it a little bit because Barry and I watched it last night, and we want to share it with you, and then, of course, our comments. So here we go.
Up next, presidential politics and the candidate who says he's being ignored by the media. We'll talk with Texas Congressman Ron Paul in a moment. But there is other news, and joining us now from Houston, Texas, and continuing our 2012 one-on-one series is Republican Congressman and presidential candidate Ron Paul. Congressman, welcome back to Fox News Sunday, sir.
Thank you, Chris. Good to be with you.
You just heard Director Fugate talk about all of the things that FEMA is doing to help people in the path of Irene. But you talked a couple of days ago about that we should do things the way we did all the way back in 1900. Let's take a look at what you said.
FEMA is not a good friend of most people in Texas because all they do is come in and tell you what to do and can't do. You can't get in your houses, and they hinder the local people, and they hinder volunteers from going in. So there's no magic about FEMA.
Congressman, you would really, at this point, do away with FEMA and all the things it's doing to help hundreds of thousands of people along the East Coast?
Have you ever read the reports that came out of New Orleans and all those wonderful things they did, giving checks to people who didn't even live there, sending in hundreds of millions of dollars worth of trailers that they had to junk because they didn't meet FEMA standards? No, it's a system of bureaucratic central economic planning, which is a policy that is deeply flawed. So no, you don't get rid of something like that in one day. Matter of fact, I've had this position for a long time, and the people kept reelecting me, and I have a coastal district. But I've also suggested that there's different ways to finance this too, because actually FEMA is in big trouble financially. Their flood program is about $20 billion in debt. So it's deeply flawed. But even back then when I refused to vote for the bailout money, because we didn't have any money. I mean, this idea that government could just bail out everybody and vote for money. But I proposed that we save $1 billion from the overseas warmongering, bring half that home, put it against the deficit, and yes, tide people over until we come to our senses and realize that FEMA has been around since 1978. It has one of the worst reputations for a bureaucracy ever. I win elections because I fight for the constituents to overcome the bureaucracy. You can't imagine how many calls we get because FEMA's getting in the way and they can't get their checks, they can't get their bailout. Then these checks go to, contractors. And the contractors and the people don't end up with the money. The contractors end up with the money. Sometimes in no-bid contracts.
So
it is anybody who wants to defend this department and this agency, they have a tough argument to argue for.
So briefly, Congressman, I assume that if the administration comes, because as we say, FEMA's running out of money, it's the end of the fiscal year, and they may have a lot of costs right now. I assume if the Obama administration comes and asks for an emergency funding bill for FEMA, you're a definite, you're a definite no.
Well, where would the money come from? We don't have any money. What are you going to do? Go hat in hand to China and borrow the money? But I would consider what I just said because I have precise beliefs in what we should do, and I want to transition out of this dependency on the federal government. But I would say, yes, Obama, you want $1 billion? Cut $2 billion, quit that war in Libya that is undeclared and unconstitutional. Bring those troops home, save $2 billion, put $1 billion against the deficit, and yes, tide our people over. I mean, we've conditioned our people that FEMA will take care of us and everything will be okay. But you try to make these programs work the best you can, but you can't just keep saying, oh, they need money. Well, we're out of money. This country is bankrupt. So this idea that the bleeding heart will say, well, we have to take care of them. I mean, the whole idea of FEMA is a gross distortion of insurance. Matter of fact, FEMA creates many of our problems because they sell the insurance because you can't buy it from a private company, which means there's a lot of danger. So we pay people to build on beaches, and then you have to go and rescue them. So it's so far removed from the market and the understanding of what insurance should be about. Insurance should measure risk. It shouldn't be a bailout program endlessly and encourage people to make mistakes. And that's what we continuously do in the flood-prone areas.
Congressman, and you've expressed them here, your libertarian views are certainly somewhat unconventional, but they have picked up growing support in this race. And let's take a look at the numbers if we can. The latest Gallup poll shows you in third place in the GOP presidential race with 13% behind Perry and Romney, but ahead of Bachmann and all the other candidates. And in a matchup with President Obama, you're now basically even at 47% to 45%. Question, what's going on here? Why are you gaining such traction this year?
Well, because it's a good idea, and it's the American ideal. But I'm fascinated with your word unconventional. Isn't it strange that we can apply that term to freedom and liberty and the Constitution, limited government, and a balanced budget? You're proposing this unconventional idea of government.
Yeah, you're proposing that it's an unconventional idea of government to do that constitutional thing. When we come back, Ron Paul's going to be upside his head some more in a little bit here on Declare Your Independence. You stay right there.